My name is Anna, and that night, everything in my life changed with just one message. It was supposed to be an ordinary family dinner. My parents had insisted that I come home for the evening, something about wanting to spend quality time together. I was 20, a university student, and visits like these had become rare. They made roast chicken, my favorite, and my mother was in one of her unusually cheerful moods. My father, on the other hand, seemed quieter than usual, sipping his wine slowly while keeping his eyes on me a little too intently. I tried not to think too much about it. Families could be odd, I told myself. Maybe they were just happy to see me. The clinking of forks and spoons, the soft hum of my mother's voice as she asked about my classes, it all felt normal. Too normal, in fact. There was a stiffness in the air that I couldn't explain. And then my phone buzzed under the table. At first, I thought it was a friend texting, maybe a silly meme or a question about tomorrow's lecture. But when I glanced down, my blood ran cold. The screen showed an unknown number. The message read, "Get up and leave. Don't say anything to your parents." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. My chest tightened, and I nearly dropped it onto the plate. I glanced at my parents. My mother was cutting her food, humming softly. My father was watching me closely now, almost as if he knew what I had just read. My palms grew sweaty. Who would send me something like that? Why now, of all times? And what did they mean by "don't say anything to your parents"? I considered showing them the phone, but something deep inside me whispered not to. That maybe, just maybe, this warning was real. I slid my phone back under the table, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The urge to stand up and run was overwhelming, but how would I even explain it? Another buzz. Another message. "You have 5 minutes. Trust me, Anna. If you stay, you'll regret it." I swallowed hard, my appetite gone. My parents were right there, but suddenly they didn't feel like safety. They felt like danger. And in that moment, sitting at the table with the people who had raised me, I realized something terrifying. I didn't know if I could trust them anymore. That I sat frozen at the table, my fork untouched on the plate, staring down at the chicken that just minutes ago looked so inviting. My parents were both talking, but their voices had blurred into a meaningless hum. All I could hear was the rapid thump of my heart and the words still glowing on my phone screen. "You have 5 minutes. Trust me, Anna. If you stay, you'll regret it." My first thought was that it had to be a prank. Maybe one of my friends was messing with me, trying to scare me for fun. But then, how would they know I was having dinner with my parents? I hadn't told anyone. My eyes flicked up. My father was watching me again. His stare felt sharper now, probing, as if he was waiting for me to react. My mother, meanwhile, was smiling too much, her knife scraping slowly across her plate. That smile, it wasn't her usual soft one. It looked forced, stretched, almost rehearsed. I reached for my water glass just to steady my shaking hands. The condensation clung to my fingers, cold and wet, grounding me for just a second. Then, another buzz. I jumped slightly, my knee bumping the underside of the table. Both my parents looked at me. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" My mother asked, tilting her head with that too bright smile. "Yes," I muttered quickly, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I lowered my gaze, fumbling for the phone. The new message read, "Don't drink or eat anything. Pretend. Just get up and leave." My throat went dry instantly. I stared at the glass of water still trembling in my hand. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, I set it down. Poison. The word slammed into my mind before I could stop it. Was that what the message implied? My parents wouldn't. No, they couldn't. Could they? But then why did the text say not to eat or drink? Why tonight, of all nights, when they'd insisted I come home? I pushed my plate slightly forward, feigning fullness. My stomach churned with fear, but I forced a casual laugh. I had a late snack before coming. Guess I'm not that hungry. My father's jaw tightened. Just slightly. But I noticed. His eyes narrowed for a split second before he covered it up with a chuckle. "Well, you always were picky, Anna." Another message. "They're watching your every move. If you tell them, they'll act fast. You have to trust me. I wanted to scream. Who was they? Why did this stranger sound so sure? And why, despite the absurdity of it all, did my instincts whisper that I should listen? I excused myself to the bathroom. My legs felt weak as I pushed the chair back. My mother called out, "Don't take too long, darling, dessert is waiting." Dessert. The word made bile rise in my throat. Inside the bathroom, I locked the door and leaned against it, sliding down until I sat on the cold tile floor. My fingers trembled as I typed back to the unknown number. Who are you? What do you mean? Why are you telling me this? 3 dots appeared instantly. Whoever it was, they were waiting. The reply came in a flash. I don't have time to explain everything. But listen, your life is in danger tonight. They are not who you think they are. My hands shook violently as I reread the words. Not who I think they are. My parents? My whole life, they had been my foundation, my safety net. And now, in one chilling moment, a stranger was telling me the 2 people I trusted most were something else entirely. I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My face was pale, my eyes wide, but beneath the fear, something else flickered, curiosity. What secret were they hiding from me? And more importantly, what would happen if I stayed? I stayed in the bathroom longer than I should have. My phone buzzed again. Anna, time is almost up. Leave now. Don't let them know. My pulse pounded in my ears. I wanted to believe this was just some twisted prank, but every fiber of my body screamed that it wasn't. There was something wrong tonight. I stood, splashed cold water on my face, and stared at myself in the mirror. I barely recognized the girl staring back, eyes wide with fear, lips trembling. For the first time in my life, I wondered if I was truly safe in my parents' house. Taking a deep breath, I unlocked the door and stepped back into the hall. The moment I entered the dining room again, the atmosphere shifted. My mother and father looked up simultaneously, their smiles plastered on too quickly, as if they'd been whispering about me and didn't want me to notice. "There you are," my father said. His voice was too smooth, too rehearsed. "We thought maybe you got lost." "I'm fine," I said quickly, forcing a smile. My heart hammered so hard I was sure they could hear it. I glanced at my plate. Still untouched. The dessert had been placed on the table, 2 slices of chocolate cake, thick frosting glistening under the lights. "Your favorite," my mother said, sliding one toward me. It smelled sweet, almost intoxicating. And yet, all I could think of was the message, "Don't eat or drink anything." I forced a yawn. "Actually, I'm feeling a bit tired. Maybe I should go." My father's hand slammed the table softly but firmly. Not loud enough to be called aggressive, but sharp enough to stop me cold. "Anna," he said, his voice low, controlled. "You haven't even touched your food. Your mother worked hard on this. Sit. Eat." I froze. My throat went dry. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again in my lap. I glanced down discreetly. "They'll try to stop you. Don't argue. Just find an excuse to leave. I'll explain everything once you're safe." I swallowed hard and nodded, forcing a nervous laugh. "You're right, Dad. I'll stay. Maybe I'll take the cake home for later. I'm just really not feeling hungry tonight." My mother's smile faltered for the briefest moment. Her eyes darkened, but then the mask slipped back into place. "Of course, darling," she said softly. "We'll pack it for you." That should have calmed me. But it didn't. Because as she reached for the cake, I saw her hand trembling. Just slightly. Why was she nervous? I excused myself again, this time saying I needed to grab something from my bag in the hallway. My parents exchanged a look, one so quick and subtle most people would have missed it. But I didn't. It was a look that said more than words ever could. The phone buzzed again the second I stepped into the hall. "Good. You're still alive. Listen carefully, Anna, your parents are hiding something dangerous. Not just from you, from everyone. If you stay another hour, you'll discover the truth in the worst way possible." I typed back, my fingers shaking violently. "Who are you? How do you know all this? Why should I believe you?" The reply came instantly. Because I was once exactly where you are now. Sitting at that same table. Staring at that same smile. Trust me, Anna. Leave before midnight. My stomach twisted violently. My knees weakened. What did they mean? They were once here. Who else had been at this table before me? I turned toward the dining room, listening. My parents were talking in hushed tones. My name floated into the air once. Twice. My blood ran cold. I didn't know who was on the other side of these messages. But one thing was clear. Whoever they were, they knew my parents. Intimately. And whatever secret my parents had buried in this house. I was about to dig it up. I didn't return to the table right away. Instead, I lingered in the hallway, my back pressed against the cool wall, trying to steady my breathing. My parents' muffled voices drifted through the closed door, rising and falling in tones too urgent to be casual. I edged closer, heart thudding in my chest, and pressed my ear against the wood. She suspects something, my mother whispered. She can't know, my father hissed back. Not yet. If she leaves tonight. There was a pause. A silence that made my skin crawl. Then, in a voice low enough that I almost didn't hear it, he added. Just like the others did. The words stabbed into me like ice. The others? I staggered back, my mind spinning. Who were these others? What had happened to them? And why did I feel like if I stayed, I would become one of them? I clutched my phone like a lifeline and typed furiously. What did they mean? Others? Who are they talking about? This time the reply didn't come instantly. For the first time, I had to wait. 30 seconds. A minute. Nearly 2. Each second stretched like an eternity. Finally, the screen lit up. I shouldn't tell you this yet, but you deserve the truth. Anna, your parents aren't who you think they are. You weren't the first child in that house. And you weren't the only one they raised. The words blurred before my eyes. My stomach dropped. I wasn't. The only one? Explain. I typed, fingers trembling so hard I nearly dropped the phone. There was another. Years before you. A girl. She lived under their roof, smiled at their table, slept in what is now your room. Then one night, she vanished. The police called it a runaway. But I know the truth. And so do they. I covered my mouth, stifling a gasp. My room. My bed. Someone else had been there before me. And she had disappeared. The dining room door creaked open. My mother's head appeared in the hallway. Her eyes swept over me quickly, almost searching for something. Anna? What are you doing out here? I shoved my phone into my pocket. I was just checking a message. Her gaze lingered on me too long. Then, with a smile that felt stretched too thin, she said, "Come back in, sweetheart. We don't get nights like these often." I nodded, forcing a smile. But every muscle in my body screamed to run. When I sat back at the table, my father pushed the cake toward me again. "Eat something. You look pale." I shook my head, clenching my fists in my lap. "I'm fine." But then something caught my eye. On the far side of the table, near the candlelight, was a framed photo I had never noticed before. It must have been placed there recently. My parents rarely decorated. In the photo, my mother stood in the garden, smiling. Beside her was a girl, a teenager, maybe 16. Long dark hair, eyes wide and bright, wearing a dress I didn't recognize. I froze. The girl in the photo wasn't me. "Who's that?" I asked, my voice low. My mother's hand jerked slightly as she reached for her glass. "No one you need to worry about. Just an old friend of the family." Her voice was too quick, too rehearsed. My father cleared his throat sharply. "Eat your cake, Anna." But I wasn't listening anymore. Because my phone buzzed again in my pocket, and when I discreetly checked it, my heart nearly stopped. The girl in the photo. Her name was Clara. She was me. I dropped my fork, the clatter echoing across the table. My parents both stared at me, their faces frozen in polite, painted smiles. But my blood had gone cold. Because now I knew, the person texting me wasn't just some stranger watching over me. She was the ghost of the past they'd buried. The fork still trembled where it had fallen against my plate, but neither of my parents moved to pick it up. They just watched me, smiling in a way that felt more like masks than faces. My phone buzzed again, but I didn't dare take it out. I already knew what it would say. Clara. The girl in the photo. The girl who had lived in my room before me. The girl who had vanished. The girl who was now warning me. Anna, my father said softly, almost gently. Why don't you go wash your hands? Clear your head. We can finish dessert after. My instincts screamed at me. Don't leave the table. If I walked away, if I gave them that chance, I might never walk back. So instead I forced myself to lean back, pretending calm I didn't feel. Actually, I said, my voice wavering, I want to hear more about her. That girl in the picture. A flicker passed between them, so fast most people wouldn't have noticed. But I did. My mother's hand tightened around her wine glass. My father's jaw clenched. Clara, I said. Her name was Clara, wasn't it? The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Finally, my mother sighed, her smile faltering. Clara was troubled. She wasn't like you. She didn't appreciate what she had. What she had? I repeated, my pulse hammering. She was ungrateful, my father cut in sharply. We gave her everything. A home, food, love. And she wanted more. She always wanted more. The way he said it chilled me. Not grief. Not sorrow. Resentment. She disappeared, my mother whispered. She ran away. That's all you need to know. But before I could speak, my phone lit up under the table. I risked a glance. They're lying. I never ran away. I never left this house. My throat went dry. My hands shook. Never left this house. I looked at them again, at the people I had called my parents for 18 years. For the first time, I wondered if they had ever really been mine. Where is she? My voice cracked. Where is Clara? Neither answered. My mother's eyes shone wet, but she didn't cry. My father simply stared, stone-faced, unblinking. And then, something shifted. A creak. A sound. Coming from upstairs. The house was silent except for it, the faint groan of a floorboard. Like someone moving. Slowly. Carefully. My parents didn't move. They just sat there. Waiting. Another buzz from my phone. My heart stuttered as I read. I'm upstairs. I never left. Come find me. I froze. My breath hitched. Every instinct warred inside me, half of me wanting to run out the front door and never look back, half of me needing to know the truth, needing to see her, to prove this wasn't just some twisted game. My parents stayed silent, as if testing me, as if waiting to see what I'd do. And then my father finally spoke, his voice low and steady. Anna, if you go upstairs, nothing will ever be the same again. He didn't threaten. He didn't shout. But the weight of those words pressed down like chains. I stood up anyway. My legs shook beneath me, but I pushed the chair back and stepped away from the table. My mother whispered, please, don't. I ignored her. Step by step, I moved toward the staircase. My phone buzzed again, guiding me like a beacon. Almost there. Don't stop. Each stair groaned under my weight. The air grew colder, heavier. Shadows stretched long across the walls, and the faint creak I'd heard earlier grew louder. I reached the landing. The hallway stretched before me, my bedroom door at the end closed. But another door, the one to the attic, hung slightly ajar. The buzzing came once more. Attic. I turned toward it, my chest tightening. My hand shook as I touched the doorknob. From downstairs, my father's voice carried up. Anna. You don't know what you're doing. I twisted the knob. The attic smelled of dust and wood and something faintly metallic. My phone flashlight cut through the darkness, illuminating stacks of old boxes, sheets draped over forgotten furniture, and I stopped breathing. In the far corner, a figure stood. Thin, pale, hair falling in dark waves around her face. Her eyes met mine. And in that moment I knew. Clara wasn't just a memory. She wasn't just a ghost in a photo. She was real. She had never left. And whatever my parents had done, whatever they had hidden, she had been here all along. Anna, she whispered, her voice fragile but clear. They'll do the same to you. Behind me, the attic stairs creaked again. Someone else was coming up.